John, you wrote a great piece this week about the White House's defiant cover-up of that decline and how we must not let that dishonesty be forgotten. And a prime example of the deceivers here, I just want to show you this little bit of White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre responding to questions about this cover-up. Have a listen.
Why is it in the country's best interest for him to step aside? Does it have to do with his health, or
it does not have to do? They have nothing to do with his health.
Who ordered White House officials to cover up a declining president?
I know that that is a narrative that you love, and
No.
Wait,
10 days,
hold on.
he did a press conference
Hold
at
on.
NATO. I'm in it. There's all these things that I
Hold
need to
on.
finish, and then 10 days later, I'm dropping out.
First of all, there's been no cover-up. I want to be very clear about that.
I mean, it seems good that some people are asking these questions, but there seems to be a deeper question here, John. Who is actually running the country if you can have a president apparently step away from re-election without telling us why he's doing it and keep running the country, apparently?
We're going to have a 6-month gap, James. It's very dangerous. Our adversaries have taken note of this. They know the president is in decline. They probably know the decline is far worse than we think. And they could take advantage of the United States or its allies anytime within the next 6 months. We have a half-time president, or maybe just a full-time non-combatant in the White House.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing that strikes me here, too, Charles Cook wrote a really interesting article about this, too, in National Review, that we had sort of this 1 month there when the press was really curious and skeptical about what was going on with the president. And then once they got from the debate and the terrible performance there to the coronation virtually of Kamala Harris, now all of that is off. And let's just go back to the races here. Kamala Harris is fantastic, and that's now the story. The First Amendment seems to not be doing its job here in encouraging the press to hold the higher authorities to account, is it, John?
Well, I can already predict what the press's next story will be, which is that President Kamala's vice presidential choice is even better than anyone else has ever been nominated. This vice president will have made a brilliant decision. I can already predict that. Look, the reason why they want to move away from this story is because they're implicated in it. They were enablers at best and conspirators at worst in covering up the president's infirmities. They don't want to revisit that. They don't want to revisit their own responsibility or take accountability for their actions, or shall we say lack of action.
Well, and I think that everybody out there just needs to be so skeptical now of, as you say, what that next big story is, because there also seems to be, and this struck me as, Soviet, Orwellian, this big push on to rewrite Kamala Harris's story. Have a look at this.
You're considered the most liberal United States senator.
Somebody said that, and it actually was Mike Pence on the debate stage. But
yeah, well, actually, the nonpartisan GovTrack has rated you as the most liberal senator. You supported the Green New Deal. You supported Medicare for all.
And now it seems that the supposedly nonpartisan GovTrack has deleted this analysis. And there's also something very similar happening with media claiming that Kamala Harris was never the border czar when she was the border czar. This is right out of Orwell, John.
It's distressing. The only good news is that the media is so obvious in this rewriting of history, so blatant, that there's a reason why only 27% of the American people have a great deal or some trust in the media anymore. Look, I would prefer they do a better job, but if they're going to do a horrible job, as far as I'm concerned, let it be so horrible that it's so obvious to everyone that people seek out alternative forms of information on the internet, on your program, other places, and they can make their own judgments about who to trust.
Well, exactly right. Hey, you just mentioned, the next story being the vice presidential pick here. Now, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, who also happens to be Jewish, is being touted as a very likely pick to be Kamala Harris's running mate. Who is he? What should we know about him? And who are some of the other contenders out there? Who do you reckon she's going to land on?
Oh, I think it's going to be Mark Kelly, the senator from Arizona.
Okay.
He's an astronaut. He has a military background. He has a reputation as a centrist, and he's shown that he will do and say anything to be Kamala Harris's running mate. He just signed on to a incredibly restrictive labor bill that the unions have been pushing, that he had resisted supporting for a long time. Josh Shapiro has two strikes against him, the governor of Pennsylvania. First, he's Jewish and he's a strong supporter of Israel. And the Gaza wing of the Democratic Party will go up in arms if that's the case. There would be riots in Chicago, I predict, if he were the vice presidential nominee, just as there were horrible protests involving flag burning and other things yesterday in Washington during Prime Minister Netanyahu's speech. And secondly, he says he supports a school choice bill in Pennsylvania that would give Black and poor students the right to go to any school of their choice, even if it involved a private school. And even though he hasn't pushed that and pulled back from it, the teacher unions will not tolerate anyone who harbors any sympathy for school choice. Kamala Harris appeared before Randy Weingarten's American Federation of Teachers Union today. She not only supported their entire agenda, James, she said, God knows you're not being paid enough as teachers.
Well,
That's
John,
pandering to a new level.
It absolutely is. I mean, these far-left teachers' unions, the far-left Gaza wing of the party, clearly they are who in the driver's seat with Kamala Harris as vice president and kind of
They're
president.
not into the driver's seat, James. They
Yeah.
own the car. They direct the car. It's an autonomous vehicle. They literally don't even have to drive it. They just direct it.
Well, I'm giving that ride 1 star. Thank you so much, John Fund, for your time this week. We'll speak to you again soon.